Hello everyone, welcome to Indian Judicial Service. Today we are discussing here the Indian Contract Act 1872. This video is the 12th part of top 300 MCQ of Indian Contract Act video series. And if you are not watched the previous video, all the link of previous videos are available in our description box. And those who want the PDF file of this video series, the PDF file will be available in our WhatsApp and Telegram group. And the link of Telegram group and WhatsApp group are also available in our description box. You may join these groups through the link. So before starting this video, I request you please like and share our videos, because your one like is motivate us and moralize us to improve our video quality. Let's come to the point here. Question number 166. A agree to let her daughter B for hire to C for concubinage without the consent of B. The contract is. So here a contract between A and C, and A here agree to let her daughter to daughter's name is here B for a hire to C for concubinage. This is the illegal and immoral activity, and agreement is completely void here, because this agreement is not a valid agreement. This is illegal and void agreement, because the purpose of the contract is void here. So this thing is here. Now option A, the void as to the consent of B, the daughter has not taken. Option B, if the consent is taken in that time, it also void, because the purpose is void here, concubinage. That's why this purpose is not appropriate here according to the Indian law. So option B here, void being immoral. Option C here, voidable at the instance of B. And option D, valid as A and C enter into a contract with their free consent. So this question is related to section 23. Section 23 dealing with here what consideration and object are lawful and what are not. And this question directly related to illustration number K. So illustration K is defined that if the agreement for such type of activities which are immoral activities, so in that time such activities are void agreement. So in this question answer is here option B, the void being immoral, because the agreement between A and C and such agreement object is immoral here. Now come to next question. Question number 167. A X in consideration of rupees 10,000 lent by and Z and provide Y and Z jointly to repay them that sum with interest on specified day. Y die the right of claim the performance. So in this question the X is consideration of 10,000 rupees lent by and Z and provided Y and Z jointly to repay them the sum with interest and the specified date, but here the Y died, so died here. The right to claim the performance is. So this question is related to the matter of section 42. Section 42 is related to the devolution of the joint agreement. So the both parties are responsible, and if any party is died during the not filling the performance of the contract, in that time the legal here and LR is representative, legal representatives are responsible to perform their contract. So option A here is available to vice representative alone. Option B here. So there are the two parties, so there is no need to vice representative alone. Both parties are responsible there. So option B here is available to Z alone. Option C here is available to vice representative and Z both. And option D here is available to vice representative and after the death of Z his representative. So in this question answer is here option C, because here the vice die, therefore his representative is liable to perform the contract here, and Z is the another party. So both vice representative and Zs are responsible to perform the contract here. So answer is here option C. Now question number 168. The doctrine of impossibility of performance rendering the contract void is based on. So option A, implied term. Option B, just and reasonable solution. Option B, supervening impossibility, and option D, unjust enrichment. So it is clear here, answer option C, supervening impossibility. So this thing is there, and doctrine of frustration is available in which section? Section 56 of Contract Act. Now come to the next question here. Question number 169. The age of majority for the purpose of Contract Act is. So first of all, we're dealing this in Indian law. The age of majority is determined by the Indian Majority Act 18. So Indian Majority Act, and this act is 1875, and the definition of majority is provided in section 3. Section 3 dealing with the every person who below the age of 18 year is treated as minor. So any person who below the age of 18 year, so such person is treated as minor. But in the case of the guardian remains in that time, the person is under the custody of guardian, or the property of that person is under the custody of guardian. In that time, such person is minor till the date till the age of 21 year. So in this question, the age of majority for the purpose of contract is option A 18 year, option B 21 years, option C 16 year for girls and 18 year for boys, and option D 18 year for girls and 21 year for boys. So it is clear here, option A 18 year, according to which Indian Majority Act section 3, the every person who is the below the age of 18 year is a minor person, and any person who above the 18 year or 18 year or above 18 year, so in that time such person is treated as majority. But in the case of guardian custody children, so in that time such person when complete 21 year, and that time he or she become major. So question number 170. The contract signed between two countries without specifying as to which country's law shall govern in case of dispute. So in this question there are the contract between two countries without specifying if any dispute will arises, so which country's law applicable. So option A here, it shall be governed by the law of country where the proposal was made. Option B here, it shall be governed by, option B here, it shall be governed by the law of the country where the contract was concluded. Option C, it shall be governed by the law of country which the parties intended to apply. For example, where the contract is localized. So option D here, it shall be governed by the law where the country is performed. So it is clear here, our answer option C. So which country's law applicable in the when the dispute will arises? So it shall be governed by the law of the country which the parties intended to apply where the contract is localized. So answer here option C. Now come to next question here. Question number 71. The damage under section 73 of Indian Contract Act are. So section 73 dealing with the compensation for loss or damage caused by breach of contract, and this thing is provided in section 73. So which type of compensation is provided? In the form of liquidated, compensatory, penal, and none of the above. So it is clear here, according to section 73, it shall be a compensatory. So damage under section 73 of Indian Contract Act are compensatory. So answer here option B. Now come to next question. Question number 172. While determining the damage, which of the following are taken into account? Option A, motive of breach. Option B, manner of breach. Option C, inconvenience caused by non-performance. And option D, all of the above. So answer is here option C, inconvenience caused by non-performance. So while determining the damage, which of the following are taken into account? Inconvenience caused by non-performance. So answer here option C. Question number 173. Which of the following is not relevant in determining of quantum of damage? So first of all, the important thing is the quantum of damage is independent to the contract, and it is alternative remedies. Now we discuss some things related to quantum of damage. So in quantum of damage means here the quantum of merit claims, it is a restituting remedies. So it is a restituting remedies, and it is recompensate for the value of work done by plaintiff in order to restore, this is very important, in order to restore him to the position in which he would have been the contract had never been entered into. So this is the quantum merit claim. So this is, there are the some important point. It is the restitutory remedies and recompensate for the value of that work and work done by the plaintiff in order to restore him, in order to restore him in that position where the plaintiff is lived there before the contract, before the entering into the contract. So restore him to the position in which he would have been the contract had never been entered into. So this thing is provided in quantum merit claim. So it is the quantum damage, quantum of damage. Now our option A here motive, option B manner, option C loss suffered, and option D both A and B. So in this question, which of the following is not relevant in determining the quantum of damage? So motive is not relevant here to determine the quantum of damage, and manner and loss suffered, these two terms are relevant to determine the quantum of damage. So answer is here option A. And very important case related to the quantum of damage is here Plinch, P-L-I-N-C-H-E, Plinch versus Colburn. So Plinch versus Colburn. Question number 174. Pre-contract expenditure may be recovered as damage. Option A generally, option B always, only if within the contemplation of party, and option D none of the above. So answer here option C, the pre-contract expenditure may be recovered as damage only if within the contemplation of party. So answer here option C. Now come to next question, question number 175. The duty to mitigate damage on the part of injured party arises. So option A in case of anticipatory breach, option B in case of breach at the time fixed for performance of contract, option C both A and B, and option D either A or B. So answer is here option D, either A or B. An anticipatory breach of contract is provided in section 39. So this thing is the duty to mitigate the damage on the part of injured party. So either in case of anticipatory breach or in case of breach at the time fixed for the performance of the contract. So answer here option D, either A or B. Now next question, question number 176. A sum fixed beforehand as amount of compensation payable in the event of breach of contract is called. So this question is related to section 74. Section 74 dealing with the liquidated damage and penalty. So in liquidated damage and penalty, where the party contract may determine beforehand the amount of compensation payable in the event of breach, so that sum is fixed into a two category. First one is here a liquidated damage and second one is penalty. So first one is liquidated damage and second one is penalty. Now we discuss these things, the liquidated damage and penalty. If the amount represents the genuine pre-estimated probable damage that is likely to the result from breach, it is liquidated damage. So in this point here, the liquidated damage is the amount represent a genuine pre-estimated the probable damage that is likely to result of breach, it is liquidated damage. So there important point here, the pre-estimated probable damage, this is very important point for liquidated damage. So if there is a breach of contract, so in that time it is a liquidated damage which is already pre-estimated for probable damage. And if some damage less than, so if sum is less than the amount of payable damage is also liquidated damage. So if sum less than the amount of payable damage is also liquidated damage. Now we discuss here the penalty. So penalty is a sum which is greater than, so sum which is greater than likely loss is called penalty. So this is the basic difference between the penalty and damage, where the amount represent the genuine pre-estimated probable probable damage that likely the result of breach. It is liquidated damage, and the case of the sum is less than here the amount of probable damage, it also liquidated damage, but the sum much greater than the likely loss is called penalty, and these things provided in section 74. Now in this question the sum fixed beforehand as the amount of compensation payable in event of breach a contract is called liquidated damage penalty, either A or B. Option D, neither A nor B. So answer is here option C, either A or B, means either liquidated damage or penalty. If less than or equal to, in that time it is a liquidated damage, and if it is greater than that sum, so it is a penalty. Now question number 177. The essence of liquidated damage is, we just discussed these things, the liquidated damage. Option A, the genuine pre-estimate of damage. Yes, this is correct here according to the first paragraph of liquidated damage. And option B, less than probable damage. This option is also appropriate. Now option C. Option C here, more than probable damage. So more than probable damage is a penalty, so it is not treated as a liquidated damage. And option D here, the payment of money in terrorem. So this thing is also not correct here. So answer here, both the terms are correct in the term of liquidated damage. So now we choose here first one. The essence of liquidated damage is genuine pre-estimate of damage, and thereafter it is followed the less probable damage. So answer here option A. Now question number 178. A contract of indemnity as a contract by which one party promises to save the other party from loss caused by him by the conduct of promisor himself or any of other promise has been defined in. So contract of indemnity is defined in section 124, and section 125 is not in present time the contract act, because it is the part of sale of goods act. Now section 125 provided that the right of indemnity holder when sued. So this thing is provided in section 125. And section 126 dealing with the contract of guarantee, surety and principal, debtor and creditor. So these things are provided in section 126. So 126 is most important here, the contract of guarantee, and 124 is another very important section here, the contract of indemnity. Now we discuss this thing is the contract of indemnity. So contract of indemnity is provided in section 124. So according to section 124, the contract by which one party promised to save other from loss caused to him by the conduct of promisor himself or by the conduct of any other person, this is called the contract of indemnity. And now we discuss here the indemnifier and indemnity holder. In the contract of indemnity there are only two party, but in the contract of guarantee there are three party. We discuss the contract of guarantee in later question. So now we discuss the indemnifier and indemnity holder. The person who promised to save the other from loss is called indemnifier. So here the person who promises to save other from loss of indemnifier, such person, this person is called the indemnifier. Question number 179. A contract of guarantee has been defined. In previously we discussed the contract of guarantee defined in section 126 and contract of indemnity defined in section 124. And section 123 are related to the sale of goods act, so it is not present in our contract act. And section 125 dealing with the right of indemnity holder when sued. So this thing, so in this question the contract of guarantee has been defined in section 126. So answer is here option B. Now we discuss what is the contract of guarantee. So contract of guarantee is provided in section 126. So section 126 dealing with contract of guarantee is a contract to perform the promise or discharge the liability of third person in case of default. So this is called the contract of guarantee. Let's take an example to better understand. So A advance a loan of 5,000 to B and C, so C is the surety here, C promises to A that if B does not repay the loan, C will do so. This is a contract of guarantee. Let's in contract of guarantee there are three parties, but in contract of indemnity there are only two party. Now we discuss these three parties. So in contract of guarantee there are surety, there are principal debtors, and third one is here creditor. Now we discuss who is surety. The surety, a person who gives the guarantee is called surety. So a person who gives the guarantee is called surety. Now a person in respect of whose default the guarantee is given is called principal debtor. And option point 3 here, the person whom the guarantee is given is called creditor. So these terms are related to the contract of guarantee under section 126. Now come to our question. So section 26 dealing with the contract of guarantee 126. So answer here option D. Now come to the question number 180. The surety is a person. We just discussed the surety. So surety is a person who gives the guarantee. So answer is here option B. Now finish this video, and if you like this video please click on like button, and if you are still not subscribed our channel, please subscribe it and press the bell icon button which will provide you further notification of our videos. Thank you for watching Indian Judicial Service.